Welcome to the deep dive. We're tearing through the latest research, compliance modules, incident reports, all that stuff from the front lines of digital security. The idea is you can skip the info overload and, jump straight to what really matters. Today, we've got a critical mission, zeroing in on cyber resilience, specifically focusing on, well, the single biggest threat facing education right now, phishing.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, our goal today is to kind of synthesize a whole stack of material. We're talking legal needs like FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and then drilling right down to the, frankly, terrifying details of real breaches and what actually works in defense. We really need to help you understand why schools, K12 districts, big universities, why they're not just targets, but often, well, the easiest targets.
And the scale. It's almost unbelievable. The big picture hook here. The education sector is consistently named the most targeted industry globally, latest sources. They're showing an average of over 4,300 attempted attacks. Think about that, 4,356 per organization every single week early this year, 2025. That volume alone, it's designed to just overwhelm defenses, isn't it? It really highlights why this deep dive is so essential for anyone with, a school login.
Yeah, it's really shifted. It's no longer just an IT problem,
Right.
It's about distributed defense now. Cyber protection is fundamentally the responsibility of every single person who has credentials and touches student data or institutional systems.
Exactly. So our mission for you listening in is to move past just general awareness. We want to give you practical, specific knowledge, those aha moments, where policy requirements actually translate into things you can do right away to spot a threat. Okay, let's unpack this. Segment 1. Why are schools getting hit so hard?
It's a classic risk assessment picture, really. High value combined with, well, high vulnerability. Let's start with value. Educational institutions. They're sitting on a goldmine of data. And it's not just IP or research. It's deeply personal stuff protected by FERPA. Student records, medical info, staff details, financial data. This stuff is incredibly valuable in the black market. So the reward for getting in is just huge.
Okay, so the data's the prize, but what makes their defenses weaker compared to maybe a bank or a big hospital system?
Right. The vulnerability side comes from mainly three things. First, money. Budget constraints. It's tough for schools to afford the really comprehensive state-of-the-art cybersecurity programs or even compete for experienced security people who get paid way more elsewhere.
Yeah, you can't possibly hire enough analysts to fend off over 4,300 attacks a week on a school budget.
Precisely. Can't be done. Second, it's the sheer number and the turnover of users. You've got this massive spread out population, students, faculty, staff, visiting scholars, and it's often changing. More users means more potential entry points, and just statistically, a higher chance someone makes a mistake. The end user is often, unfortunately, the weakest link.
And the consequences when that weak link gets exploited, they're catastrophic. The source material really paints a vivid picture.
Oh, they are, yeah. Look at the Atlanta Public Schools incident back in 2017. It happened during all the chaos of remote work because of Hurricane Irma. Attackers used that distraction. They blasted thousands of employees with phishing emails, making them look like urgent password resets.
And I saw that 34 employees actually fell for it, handed over their logins. What was the immediate hit?
Within hours, yeah.
Yeah.
The attackers rerouted the paychecks for those 34 employees straight to ghost debit cards. So the financial loss was instant, but the long-term cost. Mandatory security upgrades, loss of trust, much bigger. It was a massive hit, financially and ethically.
Wow. And sometimes it's more targeted than just mass emails, right? Like the New Haven school crisis. That involved whaling.
That's right, whaling. It's basically super targeted phishing aimed right at the top brass, senior executives. In New Haven, criminals successfully impersonated the chief operating officer because they targeted someone senior with access to big money transfers. They pulled off 6 separate fraudulent transfers, siphoned off a staggering $6 million before anyone caught on. This kind of attack is terrifying because the impersonation can be so good, mimicking how that specific exec communicates their access.
And we've seen operations just shut down too, right? Schools forced to close, like Uvalde CISD or that huge breach at Columbia affecting almost 1 million people. So tying these incidents back to policy, the takeaway is it's a distributed liability situation, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, the second sensitive student data is involved, any successful breach immediately creates a FERPA compliance issue. Protecting that data. It's legally and ethically on all faculty and staff. Your one click on a bad link can instantly put the whole institution's compliance at risk.
Okay, that leads us right into the tactics then. If people are the easiest way in, we need to really detail how criminals are getting that reported 95% success rate for breaches through phishing. let's transition. Decoding the attack vectors.
Okay, so while email phishing is kind of the classic method, attackers use social engineering everywhere now. We've got what you could call the big three beyond just standard email that you really need to watch out for. We already mentioned whaling those targeted attacks on high-value execs. Then there's smishing. That's phishing delivered by text message, SMS.
Right, text feels so immediate and personal. We probably click links and texts much faster than we would in an email without thinking.
Exactly. We're conditioned to trust them more. And the third is phishing over a voice call. This one's getting really sophisticated, fast. Attackers are using AI-trained voices now. They can create incredibly convincing interactive calls, maybe pretending to be internal IT or even your manager needing info right now. And of course, the newer threat popping up is quishing, phishing, using malicious QR codes. You might see them stuck on posters or even slipped into documents.
Wow, they're constantly finding new delivery methods. But the clues, the red flags in the actual message, they usually stay pretty consistent, right? What specific things should you be trained to spot in those crucial few seconds before you click?
Yeah, the sources give us a pretty clear checklist. Number one, urgency or threats. Phishers want you to panic. They want to bypass your critical thinking.
No.
So look for pressure act now, account closing, legal trouble threats. If the tone feels aggressive or stressful, you have to pause. Remember, real system emergencies, they don't happen via some sudden high-pressure email or text. They use established channels.
I saw one source mention the word kindly being used a lot is a big red flag. Seems minor, but I guess it works. What's the psychology there?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Using kindly, or others slightly off maybe archaic English. It's often a cultural marker for certain international scam groups. They use it because they're casting a wide net. They know that typical professional English-first business comms rarely use that word. Scammers are actually looking for what they call easy marks. People who are too busy, too distracted, or just won't notice these small language errors. They want the lowest hanging fruit.
Wow, that's really insightful. Okay, beyond weird grammar, what about like information mismatches?
Definitely. Look very carefully at the sender's address. Does the display name match the actual email address behind it? Is it, VP of Finance, but the sending domain is something weird like vp-finance.school-district.com instead of the official school-district.org, even one letter off? That's often a dead giveaway.
And then always look closely at what they're actually asking for.
Absolutely. Suspicious links or requests, that's the final trapdoor. You must hover your mouse cursor over any link. Don't click. Hover and see the real URL pop up, usually in the bottom corner of your screen. If that web address looks weird, long, unrelated, don't click it.
Yeah.
And critically, no legitimate organization, none will ever ask for your password, your DUO passcode, any sensitive authentication token via email, text, or phone. Ever. If you're asked for a password that way, it's a scam. Full stop.
But right, like that perfect example in the sources, students getting an email threatening account deletion unless they verified their Microsoft account. But the school didn't even use Microsoft. The criminals just spray it out there, hoping someone, somewhere, has a Microsoft account and will panic click.
And if they do panic click, and maybe they reuse their school password on that fake site, boom. The attacker gets 2 accounts for the price of 1 scam. It's lucrative for them and really low effort.
Okay, so given these attacks are just relentless, how do schools and universities build a defense strategy that's actually resilient? Let's talk solutions, policy.
Right. Defense has to be layered. It's a mix. Technology, clear policies that are actually enforced, and ongoing human education. On the tech side, the absolute baseline defense is multi-factor authentication, MFA. Because credential theft is what attackers want most, MFA is the single most effective wall against someone getting into an account they shouldn't.
Okay, MFA is key. But rolling it out across a huge decentralized university or a whole K12 district, that's got to be challenging. Our listeners probably know what MFA is, but what are the real hurdles institutions face in actually requiring it?
That's where the high-level policy really matters. We know that token-based MFA or push notifications, like through Duo or Okta, are way better than just SMS texts. SMS can be hijacked through SIM swapping, right? But still, many places, dealing with tight budgets or old systems, they resist moving to the stronger methods, or they don't mandate it for everyone, especially maybe students. And that's a strategic error. You save a few bucks on rollout, you lose millions in a breach later. Leadership has to push for the better method, even if it causes a little friction.
That's a critical point. Resisting inconvenience often creates the biggest vulnerability. Okay, beyond MFA, what other tech is non-negotiable?
Data recovery.
absolutely non-negotiable. Institutions have to prioritize data backup strategies. Regular backups stored both on-site and, crucially, securely off-site. It's the only reliable way back after a successful ransomware hit. And also, every institution needs a defined and tested incident response plan.
Right. The sources mention the standard 4 phases: preparation, detection analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and then post-event stuff. For a big university network, what does containment actually look like in practice?
Containment.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's often the toughest part in a spread-out environment. If, say, one department server gets compromised, the goal is immediate isolation. You want to cut off that part of the network fast. But without shutting down the whole university's learning or operations, that needs careful network segmentation and clear communication plans, all set up before a crisis.
Okay, let's swing back to the human side. If people are the weak link, is just more training the answer? Or are we relying too much on, say, making people do extra training if they click?
That's a great question. Training is vital, yes, but it's not enough on its own. It has to be continuous and relevant. Compliance requires ongoing cybersecurity awareness training, often built into annual ethics or professional development cycles. And yes, simulation exercises, those mock phishing campaigns, they're crucial. When employees fail them, the extra training shouldn't feel like punishment. It's more like a necessary response because we have the shared responsibility model, right? We're trying to equip everyone to spot threats that are getting smarter all the time.
And what's the single most effective action you, the listener, should take immediately when something looks suspicious?
It's the stop, report, verify model. Simple but effective. Stop. Don't click anything, don't reply. Just stop. Report. Immediately forward the whole suspicious message to your IT or security team. Let them analyze it and verify. If you think there's even a small chance the request is real, verify it independently. Call the supposed sender using an official phone number from the school directory. Never use contact info from the suspicious message itself, and definitely don't just reply to the suspected scam.
The role of leadership and policy really came through loud and clear in the sources, not just a nice to have, but essential.
Absolutely. Superintendents, university presidents, leaders, they must ensure their chief technology officer has a real strategic seat at the table, not just fixing printers. Decisions like mandating strong 2FA or investing in proper vendor risk checks, that has to come from the top. We saw the benefit of this, remember Atlanta Public Schools. After their big loss in 2017, they actively shared their story. They were open about their failures and successes to help other districts. That kind of sharing builds resilience across the whole sector.
And finally, we can't ignore that the weak point is often an outside partner, right? Third-party vendors pose a huge risk.
Oh, third-party vendor risk management is completely mission-critical now. Breaches happen so often through vendors. Attackers exploit the access vendors are given. That big Illuminate education breach, it hit major school districts through their vendor connection. You absolutely have to vet the security practices of every single external partner you work with. Your data is only as secure as your weakest link vendor. That defense perimeter, it goes way beyond your own firewall.
Wow. This has been an incredibly thorough deep dive. Okay, so we've covered the huge, frankly unprecedented scale of phishing in education, over 4,300 attacks a week. We identified those red flags, from urgency tactics to subtle language errors like kindly, and we outlined the layered steps needed for real resilience, mandating advanced MFA, leadership buy-in, strong vendor vetting, the works.
Yeah, and the final key takeaway for you listening is this. AI is making phishing emails better. Scarily better grammar, more convincing. So the only defense that really scales up against that is ongoing human critical thinking. That quick, maybe 5-second pause to stop, report, and verify before you click. That's the ultimate circuit breaker. It stops a low-effort scam turning into a multi-million-dollar disaster for your institution.
Which leaves us with a really powerful thought to chew on. We know the education sector holds incredibly sensitive data. We know it's the most targeted industry. And we know phishing works by exploiting human vulnerability. So what's the long-term ethical duty of these institutions when it comes to staff and student digital literacy? And maybe more pointedly, how do we make sure sustained funding for cybersecurity education is seen as truly mission-critical infrastructure, not just, an unfortunate cost we try to minimize?
Something to definitely mull over next time an urgent alert pops up in your inbox.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.